everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do my Pan That palette update. As you know, you haven't seen my intro, I'm working on the Elf Paradise palette, and yeah, it's the Retro Paradise. I always get that wrong, retro. This one looks quite a bit different from my intro because pretty much like a few days after I filmed my intro, it dropped on the floor and a few shades smashed to pieces, which is I think the third time that it's happened through this palette. And so I have used the palette, I have, but it looks quite a bit different than last month just simply because of that. However, you know, I do have some other changes where it wasn't to do with that. So yeah, we'll just get into it because I think, I don't know, I don't know how long this palette's really going to last at the end of the day because it is not performing the same way that it used to, which is such a shame because I really have always liked this palette. Okay, so let's get into it. Maybe I'll just show up on the screen what it looked like in my intro in case, just to remind yourself, you know, obviously I had the one shade that was missing and then the other shades kind of looked a little bit iffy. I had a few pans in it. So, you know, it's a pretty decent palette to start off. You know, this is my first time I'm doing a Pan That palette. I've never done one before in my life. So I just thought, you know, let's pick a palette that already has a good chunk of, I don't know, pan in there or love or use or whatever, right? And also these shades are pretty shallow. I find Elf palettes like this very shallow and pretty easy to hit pan on. So I did pick a palette that technically was easier than others, and also I just like the color story. So it is a palette that I think deserves to get the love that it's going to get this next year. However, I just don't know how long that's going to last. All right, so I've actually only used the palette 6 times this month, and that's just 6 separate times, not 6 different shades. So 6 separate makeup looks I've dipped into this palette, whether it be just using this palette or using 1 or 2 shades from this palette and then some other palettes. Okay, so this is what it's looking like right now, and as you can see, it does look quite a bit of a mess. You can see that this shade shattered quite a bit. This one also got worse and crumbled. This is my favorite shade, and it did get a little bit worse for wear. And then you can see there's a little bit of disturbance on some of these other shades where they cracked as well when it dropped. However, I have used some of the shades this month, and when it smashed, I'll just put up on the screen what it looked like when it smashed. So just to remind yourself, so that's literally a few days after I rolled it into my intro, and then the palette ended up looking like that, and now it looks like this. So I feel like there is a little bit of difference now, but yeah, I think overall the biggest difference you will find is this one because it literally just smashed everywhere. I did, however, use this shade 4 times as well, so I did get use out of it. Did not use Rise and Shine, did not use Spice. I did not use this shade, even though it looks like obviously it has changed a lot. I did not, and I tried to save as much of shade as possible, and I pushed it back in because it is my favorite shade in the palette. You can see there's a little bit of green and blue in there from this shade, so it's just a little bit of a mess. And Coconut I used once, and Dijon I've used 4 times. I actually have it on today. Sea Salt I used once, did not use Fuego, did not use Sip Sip. Maja Ma I used once, and you can see I actually have a pan in that. So this is in my Zodiac Panner at the moment, and I think a few days after I filmed my Zodiac Panner update, I hit pan in this. So that was kind of fun. So yeah, I have a new pan to share for this next update for my Zodiac Panner, but I have a new pan obviously in this palette, and that wasn't this shade did not smash. It's probably my least favorite shade in the palette. It did not smash at all. So that is just from using the shade. I think I have the look to post somewhere here of how I used it. I put it under here, and that was the look that I had when I hit pan. Tropicana I used once. Caliente did not use. I used this one once. Fortuna I used 4 times. Did not use this one. Used Disco once, and I did not use the black. So I'll put up on the screen like total uses just so you can see if you weren't really paying attention to what I just said. But it's been a fun palette to work on. I'm glad that I picked it. I do think I did the right choice. I think for this upcoming month, what I'm going to probably aim for is hit pan and Dijon. I think that this is a shade that I'm going to get a lot of use out of because of my Project Level Up palette. It just works really nicely and I have it on today and I'm sure I'm going to do this like many times. I think I'm probably going to expand Fortuna a little bit more and probably Sandy Bum as well. So I think these three are going to continue to get the most use. And most noticeably, I think I would just try to get a pan in Dijon. The rest I'll try to touch if and when I need to. But I think those ones are going to get the most use just in terms of what I know I'm going to be doing. If I do some cooler tone looks, which I might plan to do, I'll try to remember to use Disco because I think I'm very close to hitting pan in this one. But if I don't do any cool tone looks, then I just obviously won't hit pan in that. But yeah, that is my update for my Pan That palette. I do have an update for my little side hustle project. I did speak about this in my Project Level Up intro last month. However, I decided to keep that project separate, and I think I'm either going to update my side hustle in my Pan Those eyeshadows or my Pan That palette. They're just a little bit more sort of personal to me, I guess, in a way, because obviously I'm choosing my Pan That palette. And Pan Those eyeshadows, I don't know, it's not my project at all, but I don't know. I don't know which one. I'm just going to update it. But I'm going to update it on this one for today. So what I decided to do in January is I want to roll in one shade from one random palette every month. And so for January, I have my spreadsheet all listed with all of the shade names, and I sorted it alphabetically, and I wanted to pick a shade that starts with J for January, the first one that starts with J, and the first one in my collection that starts with J is actually in my Urban Decay palette, Stone Vibes, and it's the shade Jade. So it's a green shade. I put up on the screen what it looked like last month. Didn't really have that much use out of it, but I think for this side hustle, I just want to get more use out of random shades in my collection, and it's just for the month. It's not going to roll on. There's no usage goal or anything like that. I don't have to hit pan, but I want to use that shade along with everything else that I'm using. I just wanted to sort of inundate myself with another project for some reason. So anyway, this was what it's looking like now. I do have a little bit of change to it, which I think is pretty cool. There's more of a dip going on. Obviously there's no pan. I have used it 4 times this month. Not a huge amount, but it has worked really nicely with these types of tones because I've been doing these types of tones a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited that I've got more use out of it, and this palette looks even more loved now, and so I'm happy and ready to roll it out. And so you guessed it, for February I now need to pick the shade that starts with an F and the first one that starts alphabetically. So I've already looked to see what the shade is, and I'm going to have to go to the second F in my collection because the first one is in my Batman palette from Makeup Revolution, and it is the shade Face Your Fears right here. Now, I normally would be fine. Okay, I'll work on this month. However, I have this currently in my Shop My Stash, and I'm doing a No Pan Left Behind in my Shop My Stash where I use every single shade at least once. So I'm already going to be dipping into this shade this month, so I'm not going to actually use this for my February shade. I'm actually going to use the second F in my collection, and it is another shade from Revolution. It is from my LA Dreams palette, which I depotted. And the shade, to be honest, is not the best shade, and I have been thinking of decluttering some of these. It has terrible hard pan, but it is the shade Fame, which is right here. So it's like an icy pink. Let me just pull it out so it's easier to look at. This is what it looks like. So as you can see, I have a little bit of a stain on my finger. It's got a lot of hard pan to it. It's from the LA Dreams palette from their Makeup Obsession range, and that's fine. I mean, what I'm going to do is I'll work on it. I'll see how much use I can get out of it in 1 month, and it might be something that I just end up decluttering. The hard pan is pretty bad. Let me just swatch it there and see. I mean, it is pretty nice. It's like an icy pink, right? I don't know how many icy pink looks I'm going to do. Actually, I just swept away a little bit of the hard pan, so maybe I can get through the hard pan. It's not that bad. It's a really beautiful inner corner, not for this look, but in other looks. So this is the sort of side hustle shade that I'm going to be working on for February. Obviously for February, it works really nicely. I might do a bunch of like pinky mauvey tone looks for the week of Valentine's, and then I might get a lot of use out of this. But I think the rest of the month I have just too many warmer tone shades that I need to work on. But yeah, that one is going to be just a February use goal, and we'll see. And then what I'll do in March in my next update, whether I'm going to tag this along to my Panda's eyeshadows or Pan That palette or a different video, I will do another update to my side hustle, tell you how many times I use that shade, and then I'll roll in the shade for M for March, and then we will see what that is. I don't know, I think this is exciting because it's technically random, and it could change depending on if I get a new palette or if I do you know, depot palette or declutter a palette, whatever. It kind of could change. For now, for the year, I know what shades I'm going to be rolling in. Although, obviously, if that shade is rolled into a different project, I'll just go to the next one. Or, like the Batman palette, if it's in my Shop My Stash, then I won't use that shade and I'll go to the next one. But yeah, anyway, this is a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see how my e.l.f. palette looks next month. We will see if I can hit Pan That Dijon shade. I think that's my ultimate goal for this month. And I think I'm going to get quite a lot of use out of it, and it's a very powdery formula. They're all so powdery in that palette now at the moment. So anyway, hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.